Hi, everyone, and welcome to Brian's Horror Corner. I'm your host, Brian, and welcome to this Christmas horror movie review as part of my Christmas holiday horror movie series for the month of December here. So, we are going to take a look today at a movie that has been pretty hyped up over the last 4 or 5 years. It's a first time watch for me, just as many of these Christmas horror movies are this year. And of course, I'm talking about Krampus from 2015. So yeah, I actually hadn't seen this movie before. I heard about it, of course. I know it's even been on TV, I think, but I actually haven't sat down to watch it. So I have a version here that's got a few bonus features. I don't know if you can see that with the light, but so yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. Starting with the setup, the premise, the cast, and then I'll get into what I thought about the movie, my thoughts and reviews. So Krampus is a 2015 American Christmas horror comedy film based on the eponymous character from Austro-Bavarian folklore. And the movie's directed by Michael Dougherty. For those of you that don't know, Michael Dougherty directed Trick or Treat, the Halloween film from 2007, which after one time watch became one of my very favorite anthology movies as well as Halloween movies. So kudos to him. So that definitely got me interested in checking this out. The movie's written by Dougherty, Todd Casey, and Zach Shields. So in the film, a dysfunctional family squabbling causes a young boy to lose his festive spirit. Doing so unleashes the wrath of Krampus, a fearsome horned demonic beast in ancient European folklore who punishes naughty children at Christmas time. As Krampus lays siege to the neighborhood, the family must band together to save one another from a monstrous fate. So that's basically the premise of the movie. So the movie opens 3 days before Christmas. The prosperous but dysfunctional Ingle family gathered for the holidays. Max Ingle remains a firm believer in Santa Claus and intends to send him a letter. Max wants to continue family traditions, but tensions among his relatives saps their Christmas spirit. When his cousins read out his letter to Santa and mock him for still believing, he fights with them and yells out that he hates his family and even Christmas. His father confronts him by telling him that even though there is chaos during the holidays, he should always love his family, and he gives them a letter there and he gives them the letter to Santa. In a fit of anger, Max tears up the letter and throws it in the wind outside, and the wind sweeps it up into the sky. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied there with trying to read my own writing here. Max tears up the letter and throws it into the wind outside, and it's swept up into the sky. There we go. That sounds better. So cast wise, we have M.J. Anthony as Max Ingle, Adam Scott as Tom Ingle, Tony Collette as Sarah Ingle, David uh, David Kirkner Koshner as Howard, the uncle of Max, Allison Tolman as Linda, Conjetta Farrell as Aunt Dorothy, Stefani Levy Owen as Beth Engel, the teenage sister of Max. So some interesting names there that I'm obviously can't pronounce very well. So yeah, that's the setup and the cast for Krampus from 2015. So I went into this movie with pretty high expectations, I'll admit, because Michael Dougherty directed it, and I just watched Trick or Treat a few months ago and loved it. And also, I talked to a lot of people, friends of mine, that said this is a great Christmas horror movie. So my expectations were pretty sky high. And at the end of the day, this kind of ended up being a mixed bag for me. Um, for various reasons. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with my pros, of course, for Krampus. So you got to start with the fact the movie looks great. There's no denying that it has really good cinematography and camera work, especially as it relates to the snowstorm and the blizzard that's going on outside, throughout the neighborhood, outside their house. Basically, the middle to the end of the movie, you got this blizzard going on, and yeah, everything just looks great with it, the camera work and the cinematography, like I said. Also, the use of light and shadow is very well done in this movie. So yeah, the movie's really easy on the eyes. It's not hard to watch from a visual standpoint at all. The movie also has really good production value in terms of the sets, the design, the overall settings of the movie. It looks like a high budget movie. Whether it actually was or not, I'm not sure. I think it had a decent budget, but I don't think it was overly high. But the production value definitely looks great. I also think the look of Krampus himself, um, and some of his elves or sidekick minions, was really good. Definitely using practical effects was the best part of the movie in that respect. Definitely to the movie's benefit. I thought Krampus and some of his sidekicks looked really creepy and effective, and really fit what this movie was going for. I do have to say the movie is well directed by Michael Dougherty, even though I don't think it's quite as good as Trick or Treat. I still think the direction of it was pretty good for the most part. Also, the acting was actually surprised me a little bit. The acting was good in this movie. I mean, we kind of expected from Adam Scott and Tony Collette, and they deliver. But I thought the young performers, the kids in the movie, were actually pretty good, including MJ Anthony as Max Ingle, sort of the main, at least the main kid character anyway. I thought he did a good job, but really all the young performers, I didn't really have any complaints there. I have to talk about Christmas atmosphere, of course, as I do in all of these Christmas horror movies, and this one's right up there. Really great Christmas atmosphere throughout the whole movie. Lots of decorations, of course, lots of Christmas music, snow, winter going on outside, and then also just some Christmas themes going on, like shopping at the mall and things that the movie's introduced to with the opening credits. You definitely know you're watching a Christmas movie when you watch Krampus. There's no mistake about that. So, yeah, really, really high marks for the Christmas atmosphere for sure. Um, I also think the story itself is pretty interesting, like the origins of Krampus. Pretty interesting, somewhat creative. It definitely kept my attention. Being the sort of the anti Santa Claus for those that lose their Christmas spirit. It's basically like he takes advantage of those that are discouraged or I don't know what the word is, just discouraged or don't like Christmas for whatever reason. He takes advantage of that, being the quote unquote anti Santa Claus. So I thought that was really interesting. Definitely got me interested in the movie just reading about it. And then you got to talk about the score and effective music cues that are used to fit the tone and the feel of this movie. So I thought the score was really solid for this movie of Krampus. So yeah, those are my pros for the movie. Getting on to some cons, this was a PG-13 movie for better or worse. I do like PG-13 horror movies. I'm not one of those that thinks that for any horror movie to be effective, Christmas or otherwise, it has to be rated R or unrated. I don't believe that. I think there's lots of good PG-13 horror movies. The Ring, Insidious, even going back to something like Tourist Trap, which was before they had PG-13. It was actually PG. So there's definitely some good, effective horror movies. But I almost do think that this might have been better as an R-rated horror Christmas movie, and we'll kind of get into that as I go through my cons here. Um, excuse me, 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry about that. I just coughed up a huge wad of green stuff, which I know you all wanted to know that. But I was not going to talk through the rest of this video with that in my mouth, so I had to go grab a Kleenex and get rid of it. Okay, back to where I was with starting with the cons. So they use practical effects for the most part in this movie, but when they do use CGI, it's pretty god awful. Obviously, this is the gingerbread man is the prime example of this. I was That scene was laughable, not at all effective for me. And I understand you can't really use gingerbread men. Practical effects would probably be kind of difficult, but it's so obvious. The CGI is just so bad to me. At least half the characters that were introduced in the first 20 minutes of the movie are pretty unlikable. Um, it's really hard to come to care about them or even root for them, whether they survive or not. And I'm mostly talking about the in-laws. I think the Ingle family themselves, Max and Tom and Sarah and even his sister Beth. I think they're all okay. But once Howard comes in with his wife Linda and their kids, which I didn't put that as part of the cast, but and then the aunt as well is just really annoying. The grandma was fine too. I didn't mind her, but like I said, about half the cast, I was actually rooting for Krampus versus them. To be honest with you, I just didn't think that they were just not good characters to root for. The biggest problem with this movie, I feel like, is it really didn't know what it wanted to be. It tried to please too many people in too many different genres. You watch the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie, you think it's going to be like a fart joke kind of comedy movie, poop jokes and things of that nature. It's it's a comedy, it's a horror movie, but it never really has a smooth transition or never really is integrated that well between the two. In other words, half the movie's a comedy. They try to throw jokes in there even after Krampus shows up and things go to hell, and then they also try to have those intense, suspenseful moments of horror in there. And then with some of the side characters of Krampus as well, and the looks and visuals of them, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. It just felt like two different movies that they tried to mash together, and at the end of the day, it just didn't ring out all that well compared to some other movies. Gremlins is the one that comes to mind. That's the biggest comparison I can make with Krampus. But yeah, it's just I don't know. The tone of this movie was just weird to me. It just really didn't work from beginning to end. There were a lot of attempts at humor that landed kind of flat for me. I think there were only three different jokes or three different instances where I actually laughed. Now that might just be me. I'm kind of an old crank, maybe, and maybe the comedy they were going for in this movie just didn't work for me. But again, I think more of it was related to the fact that what the hell are you trying to do with this movie? I don't know. So the comedy just didn't land for me, other than a couple of jokes. Um, I also didn't think the movie had great pacing to the kills and captures by Krampus in the movie. I mean, one character is basically captured in the first 20, 25 minutes of the movie, and then it's like another 20, 25 minutes before a whole bunch of characters are trapped and captured or killed, if you will. Um, which basically happens at the same time. They didn't do a good job of spacing those kind of things out, and I don't really know if they're kills or not. Because of course you don't see anybody killed. It's a PG-13 movie. I kind of viewed it more like they were captured by Krampus and sent down to hell, basically to Krampus's world, whatever you want to say. But yeah, just the pacing of the captures of these family members was really inconsistent and uneven. Um, Another big problem I have is okay, so when the title of the movie is called Krampus, I expect the movie to focus a lot on Krampus, and when it does, it's pretty effective with the introduction of Krampus, the look of him, even when he's jumping from rooftop to rooftop early on in the movie or midway through the movie. That stuff's all great. Unfortunately, I don't think they focus on Krampus as much as they should, but instead they focus more on his helpers, his elves, his minions, as some people call it. Some of which are effective, I'll grant you, like the teddy bear and the doll and stuff. They got good looks to them, but it's not the title of the movie, though. To me, it makes it much less effective than it could have been as a result of the fact that they focus more on these elves or these Krampus helpers or sidekicks than they do on Krampus. Um, so yeah, that was a big con for me. I also feel like this is more of it definitely fits in the same vein as Gremlins. It's more of a family dark comedy Christmas movie than a scary or intense horror movie. Now there is one scene where they go up, where a lot of them go up in the attic, like the parents, and that gets pretty intense. Meanwhile, the uncle's fighting the crap ass gingerbread man in the kitchen, the CGI gingerbread man. But what they face up in the attic's pretty intense. That scene was probably the most intense, I would say, in terms of a horror standpoint. Like I said, the look of the things that come to life there. But it is more of a family dark Christmas horror or comedy movie, I would say. Like I said, in the same vein as Gremlins, but it's not as good as Gremlins, in my opinion. There's several reasons for that. One I touched on already: the characters, the tone of this movie. Gremlins knew what it was; it knew what it wanted to be. This movie, I think, it was kind of confusing with what it wanted to be. Gremlins wasn't overly funny, but the jokes that they used worked because they were kind of under the surface. They were more subtle. Where here they try to force it, and it feels like a lot, especially at the beginning. So yeah, Gremlins is the movie to compare it to, but to me, the Gremlins is better than this. But all that being said, I did like this movie, guys. It is a good Christmas a good Christmas modern Christmas horror movie, I guess if you want to say. The look of it itself is good enough for me. And then you throw in good directing and good acting, um, good performances, and the Christmas atmosphere. That's enough right there to have it on my every year watch list. It just as a movie, as a Christmas horror movie, it kind of left me wanting more, frankly. And that's where I'm not sure if the PG-13, if it might have been a little bit more efficient for me being an R-rated movie. I don't know. But I can only tell you how I feel. Like I said, there's a lot to like in this movie, but there were things that fell flat for me. As I said, the comedy, the tone of the movie, and just the overall not seeing Krampus enough, and just wanting more from it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a 7 out of 10 for Krampus. It's not awful by any means. It is a good modern horror Christmas film, but not as good as I wanted it to be. So 7 out of 10 is my rating. Go ahead and tell me what you guys think down below in the comments of Krampus. Do you love it? Am I being too hard on it? Your pros and cons. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell below so you don't miss my upcoming videos related to this series. And please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content, not just the rest of this series, but also what I have coming up in the first few months of the 2022 here. So stay tuned for a video at the end of the year on that. We got two more movies to go, one Christmas related horror movie and one winter related horror movie that I'll be putting up before the end of this month yet. So thank you for watching. Hope everybody's having happy holidays so far. Stay scared. Bye.